what you've been told.
I don't know what you've been told.
U.S. mail will not be sold.
U.S. mail will not be sold.
U.S. mail is not for sale. U.S. mail is not for sale.
Postal workers out in force today, protesting in 26 states and the District of Columbia. They're ticked about a deal between the U.S. Postal Service and Staples, which allows that retailer to sell products with the Postal Service brand. The unions hate it, but Sabrina Schaefer loves it. Sabrina, you want privatization, I take it, right?
I do, and I think the market is demanding it. I was at the post office on Tuesday, and I don't live in a very conservative area, and I heard a customer screaming at the clerk, the private sector could do this better. And I thought, oh my goodness, things are definitely changing if that's the attitude now.
But look, if Postal Service products are available at a private retailer like Staples, isn't that creeping privatization? That's what's happening, isn't it?
That's exactly what's happening. Look, I mean, in the private marketplace, if a company doesn't adapt properly, it goes out of business. I always look at Blockbuster, right? It was a cumbersome model. Consumers didn't like it, and they moved to the online rental company Netflix instead. In the case of the post office, despite competition from places like UPS or FedEx, they simply have not adapted. And part of that is because Congress stands in its way. But here's an opportunity for it to adapt, and the unions are standing in the way. So clearly the market is demanding this, and I think the unions are going to lose out.
I think the unions want to extend this. I believe they're asking the teachers union to have their members boycott Staples. They really want a much more broad-based boycott, essentially, of Staples.
No, I think you're absolutely right, which is, I think it goes to the point of why so many Americans, over 40% of Americans, are beginning to see unions as a liability because they're thinking about their interests and not the interests of taxpayers. And in this case, the Postal Service is employed by the taxpayers, and we want something that's more efficient, more nimble, and that's responding to what the market wants. And so if unions want to see the post office survive, they're going to need to see that it changes.
Fair point, but surely there just are not the votes in Congress to go for privatization. Every rural congressman representing a rural area, we want our postal service. It's very hard to privatize it in that case.
Right, and this is one of the big problems, right, is that every time we want to see any changes, whether it's a change in personnel or in hours, the Postal Service has to beg and barter with Congress. But that's why we're also seeing $25 billion in losses over the last 3 years. I understand the problem of reaching rural areas, but I also have great faith in the private marketplace to respond to that need in an efficient and affordable manner.
I got to tell you, I find it surprising that Britain has just privatized totally the Royal Mail. In fact, you can buy stock in the Royal Mail these days, and they totally privatized it. I am surprised that they could do that, but we in America can't move forward even with incremental steps of privatization.
Right, and I think it's interesting, especially when you see the success of a company like FedEx. We know that there are companies out there that can get packages from point A to point B overnight without a problem. So I don't know why there's such a lack of confidence in the ability to privatize the Postal Service. But what I do know is that 15 years ago, I worked at the American Enterprise Institute, and people were devoted to this issue then, and they're devoted to it now. I think that this is just a matter of time. It's going to happen.
Don't hold your breath. Sabrina Schaefer, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We do appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Bet you never